Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video, and welcome to the first vlog of Jane Austen July. So it's the first day of July, the first day of Jane Austen July, which is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to doing some vlogging this year. So I thought I would let you know what I'm going to be starting Jane Austen July off with. So I have already started reading Mansell Park. I'm listening to the audiobook narrated by Frances Barber, and I listened to the first 4 chapters this morning while doing some physio exercises. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm already ahead of schedule. I think our schedule is 2 chapters a day, but I figure I will probably read in sort of slightly bigger chunks and then have a pause every like 8 chapters or so to listen to other things on audiobook. But yes, really loving my read of Mansell Park so far. It's just such a marvellous novel in every way. And then the other book I'm going to start, the first physical book I'm going to start, is The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennett by Linz McLeod, which I think is going to be really fun. This is a Charlotte Lucas and Mary Bennett falling in love novel, and that sounds excellent. I'm hoping to start that. Well, I definitely will be starting that later today. First though, I need to do some work. It's Wednesday morning, and I have done my writing work for the day, but I need to carry on with my editorial work for the day. I'm a freelance editor, if you don't know. I've got a new project just landed on my desk that I'm starting today, so I'm looking forward to that. And then I will try and take a lunch break and do some reading on my lunch break. I'm not, as a rule, very good at giving myself lunch breaks, but during Jane Austen July and Victober, I always try and do so and read on my lunch breaks, and then hopefully I'll have some reading time this evening as well. The last 2 weeks of June were just exceptionally busy work-wise, and then July is a little bit quieter, so fingers crossed I will get some good reading done. So that's all for now. I'm gonna get to work. I have some tea in my Jane Austen mug to be thematically appropriate. I feel like the fan is playing havoc with my fringe, but there we go. That's what happens in summer. Hello again. I've just read the first 50 or so pages of The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennett on my lunch break, which I'm thoroughly enjoying so far. I read outside for a little bit because it is very nice weather today. It is very sunny in the UK at the moment, but not quite so unbearably hot as it was last week when we were having a huge heat wave. So I read outside for a little bit, and then it was too sunny because I am very pale and burn very easily, so I came back inside and read a bit more. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It did take me a few chapters to get out of editor mode. I think partly because I have been editing all morning for work, and also because I have randomly in the course of my career worked on not 1 but 2 Charlotte Lucas retellings of Pride and Prejudice, and therefore when I'm reading a book with Charlotte Lucas as the main character, I'm automatically in editor mode, I think. But after a few chapters, I'm more into reading it as a novel, and I'm really enjoying the relationship that is developing between Charlotte Lucas and Mary Bennett. I'm going to have to spoil Pride and Prejudice a little bit to talk about this book, but I assume you probably know the basic facts of Pride and Prejudice. It is a very widely read book. This book is set about 4 years after Pride and Prejudice, and in the first sentence of the book, Charlotte's husband, Mr. Collins, dies, and following his death, she asks her friend Elizabeth Bennett to come and stay with her, but Elizabeth can't come because her son is unwell, and therefore she sends her sister Mary to come and keep Charlotte company, and Charlotte and Mary are going to fall in love. It's quite fun reading this, having read The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow, and watching The Other Bennett Sister adaptation at the moment, because the Mary Bennett in this book is quite different from the Mary Bennett in The Other Bennett Sister, and in this book, sort of in the 4 years since Pride and Prejudice, Mary Bennett has gone on a bit of a coming of age journey, I suppose, and become a bit sort of more talkative and cheerful, and I think she's been living a somewhat scandalous life of independence herself, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how we find out more about her, and how she's gonna introduce Charlotte into a slightly different world and slightly different part of Regency society, I guess. So yeah, this is very fun so far. Looking forward to continuing with this, and I will check in again at some point soon. Hello again, it's Thursday the 2nd of July and I just thought I would update you with my reading. I'm still reading Mansell Park and The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennett, both of which I'm really enjoying. But today I also read the entirety of Lady Susan by Jane Austen, her short epistolary novella following a very scandalous woman called Lady Susan, who's in her mid-30s with a daughter. She's a widow and she is a flirt and carrying on an affair with a married man and trying to work out what is the best way to secure her future. I listened to Lady Susan on audiobook, the Naxos audiobook, which has multiple narrators, so each character's letters is read by a different person, which is really fun and worked really, really well. And I listened to the whole of that today because it's only a few hours long, and I listened to that at the gym, and I really, really enjoyed it. I just love Lady Susan so much. I've read it several times before, but I haven't listened to an audiobook before, so that was a really nice experience. And I just think it's a super, super fun book that is, you know, quite different from the rest of Jane Austen's work. It is something that, you know, is finished, does have an ending, but it wasn't published during her lifetime, and it's much more scandalous and like overtly scandalous than her other books, which is not to say nothing scandalous ever happens in Jane Austen's main 6 novels, but in Lady Susan it's much more like at the forefront. Thoroughly enjoyed that, and I will crack on with The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennett and with Mansell Park. I think I'll probably start a new audiobook too because I'm already ahead of schedule with Mansell Park. I think I might start A Sicilian Romance by Anne Radcliffe, which is the book for my Patreon Historical Fiction Book Club this month, and I am waiting for a physical copy from the library, but I did realise I also have access to an audiobook of it, so I might try that on audio. I really enjoyed listening to The Mysteries of Udolpho last year, so I think Anne Radcliffe hopefully works well for me on audiobook. Hello again, it is Monday the 6th of July and I am back with another update. I failed to film very much over the weekend, but I did do quite a bit of reading, so I do have various things to update you on. I've also had my hair cut, which is probably very dramatic in comparison to the last clip of me talking, but it's a big relief to no longer have long hair. It was way too hot for long hair. Anyway, what have I been reading these past few days? So I finished off reading The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennett, which I really enjoyed. Really fun Pride and Prejudice retelling, looking at the love story between Charlotte Lucas and Mary Bennett. It's a romance novel and also a novel about accepting your own sexuality and sort of coming to understand that better, and I thought all those elements were done really, really well. I am still listening to Mansell Park, which I'm really enjoying, and then I have started also an audiobook, A Sicilian Romance by Anne Radcliffe, which I'm enjoying so far. This is my 3rd novel by Anne Radcliffe, who was an 18th century Gothic writer, and I quite like her work. I wouldn't say she's like an absolute favourite. I find her books a bit like over sentimental and a bit overblown, but in quite a fun way. And I always find it fun when you read like 18th century Gothic novels. It feels very tropey, but only because that's where like all the tropes come from. So A Sicilian Romance is set in 16th century Sicily, and follows the 2 daughters of a nobleman. One of them is in love with a young man who she'd like to marry, but her father wants her to marry someone else. And meanwhile, one of the wings of their house may or may not be haunted, and there are some suspicious lights and noises coming from there. And it feels sort of very quintessential Anne Radcliffe so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. But it also started on my e-reader reading Lover's Vows by Elizabeth Inchbold, which is a play from Jane Austen's time, which is the play that the characters put on an amateur dramatics performance of in Mansfield Park. So I have read Lover's Vows before, but I thought it would be nice to reread it, and I'm hoping to make a video about it. Well, I will be making a video about it this year. I'm making notes as I read, so I've just finished Act 4, and it's a 5-act play, so I'm very nearly done with it. But I'm really enjoying rereading Lover's Vows. It is a bit like over the top and sentimental, as 18th century literature sometimes is, but it is really interesting, and it also, like, it does really enrich your reading experience of Mansfield Park, because it's quite a scandalous play for the late 18th century, and you can really understand why some of the characters in Mansfield Park do not approve this production being put on. And it also has a lot of really interesting parallels to Mansfield Park and like different character situations and stuff, which is really fun. So very much enjoying that. So that is what I have been reading. I'm hoping I will finish Lover's Vows this evening. I'm going to do some reading sprints on the channel this evening, which will be nice. And then once I finish Lover's Vows, I guess I'm going to start some non-fiction, I think, because I do have quite a lot of non-fiction I want to get to this month. So I think I'm going to start Encounters with Jane Austen, which I think will be quite a quick read. This is an anthology of essays and poetry and interviews and various bits and pieces. And then after that, I don't know what I'll read. I guess I'll see. Hello again, it is the evening of Tuesday the 7th of July and I had some good reading sprints last night. I did indeed manage to finish off Lover's Vows, which I really enjoyed. Like I said, this was a reread for me, and I am going to make a whole video talking about Lover's Vows and Mansfield Park and the ways they link together. But I really enjoyed that reread very much indeed. And then I started reading this. This is Encounters with Jane Austen, celebrating 250 years, which is an anthology of non-fiction essays and poetry and short stories and interviews and like various things all about Jane Austen. I have an essay in here, but I hadn't read the rest, so I'm looking forward to getting further through. I enjoyed the essays and story that I've read so far, and I'm gonna be taking this with me this evening on the train, because I'm going to a book event, not an Austen book event at all. It is in conversation with Jonathan Sims, who is a horror writer and is an author, but also the person behind the Magnus Archives podcast, which I really love. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I will be reading this on the train. And I've also started listening to The Rushworth Plot by Claudia Gray on audiobook, because my library hold came in, and I'm really enjoying that so far. It is the 4th in a series, so I don't know how much I can say, but we're following Juliet Tilney and Jonathan Darcy as they arrive in London and encounter the Bertram family, and various drama ensues. There is a murder. It's a murder mystery. I think it will be great fun. I am now listening to lots of audiobooks at once, mostly because Mansfield Park and A Sicilian Romance I'm reading a bit on a schedule. Mansfield Park for the group read and A Sicilian Romance for my Patreon book club. So I guess I will read like my 2 chapters of Mansfield Park and my 1 chapter of Sicilian Romance a day, and then any other audiobook time I have in a day, I will listen to The Rushworth Plot, which I'm enjoying so far. And yeah, I think that's all my updates for today, and I guess I will probably check in again tomorrow. Hello again, it is Thursday the 9th of July. It is very, very hot here in London today, much too hot. I'm not enjoying the heat, so I have the fan up very loud, you can probably hear it, but there we go. I've been drinking some iced tea, though I have now finished it all. I am not usually a big fan of iced tea, but the last few weeks it has been so warm that I have got myself into iced mint tea. There's a really nice, I think it's pucker tea, which is 3 mint, and that iced in the fridge for several hours is pretty nice. So that's what I've been drinking lately. And meanwhile, I have finished reading Encounters with Jane Austen, which I really enjoyed. This, as I think I said, is an anthology of like various stuff about Jane Austen. So there are essays about Jane Austen and the Gothic novel, and about writers' personal relationships with Jane Austen. There are short stories from the character of a modern Charlotte Lucas, and Georgiana Darcy, and Jane Austen herself. There are interviews with scholars of Jane Austen, and directors of Jane Austen stage adaptations, and also lots of poetry inspired by Jane Austen. So it's a real medley of things, which I really enjoyed. As I think I said, I have an essay in here, which is really fun, which is about sort of learning to love Jane Austen over time, but I also really enjoyed everyone else's essays and contributions, and I think it's a really interesting like anthology of lots of different things, so that was very fun. Meanwhile, I am still listening to many audiobooks. I'm still listening to The Rushworth Plot, Mansfield Park and A Sicilian Romance, enjoying them all, just reading a bit a day of all three. I've only actually got about 2 hours left of A Sicilian Romance. I've got 5 chapters left, but they're very short chapters at this stage of the book, so I probably will finish that over the next few days, but I have been enjoying that. It is a bit silly, as Anne Radcliffe's novels sometimes are, but in a really fun, enjoyable, over-the-top 18th century way, so I'm enjoying that. I've just gone to fetch something from the other side of the room because I keep forgetting to open on camera a fun thing I have been sent, like a mini unboxing, but really like a what do you call it when you open a letter? I've been kindly sent a little package from the Tiny Bookcase. I'll leave her YouTube channel down below, and her Patreon, but it is a postal subscription thing, and the theme for July is Jane Austen July, so I have very kindly been sent some bits and pieces. I have a little Regency sort of fashion plate thing. I have a little quote from Persuasion. In fact, there's one quote on the back and one on the front. We have, "How quick come the reasons for approving what we like," and "Your countenance perfectly informs me that you were in company last night with the person who interests you at this present time more than all the rest of the world put together." I realised it was a dangerous idea to unpack a envelope full of paper while I have a fan pointed at me, but there we go. And then here I have a little like library borrower's card, various lovely Austen bits and pieces. So I have little bits of Austen tape, and some Austen stickers, a little Jane Austen Polaroid, which is very fun, and a Jane Austen playing card, specifically Emma Woodhouse. So I'm very glad to have some fun Austen related things, and I will be pinning them to my pin board, which is what I tend to do with all such bookish things. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up this vlog here, because tomorrow is the 10th of July, so I'm about a third of the way through the month, and then I will post this vlog tomorrow once I have edited it all together. I don't know what I'm going to pick up next physically after Encounters with Jane Austen, but I guess I will save that for the next vlog and decide this evening / tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know how your first 10 days of Jane Austen July have gone. What have you read? That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.